Hey guys, thank you for joining us for a late night special episode of Year of Magical Learning. This is the YOML podcast. Chris is actually on the road, but we wanted to get this in before it's too late for him to go. And so that's why we're here today. And so I'm going to share the screen, but essentially we are doing book Reflection 220. And I guess the reflection title here is 272 words. I don't know what that means, but I'm excited to hear about it. So let me share.
Yeah,
Chris, you can start.
yeah. So the book is Lincoln at Gettysburg, and it's all about Lincoln around the time of Gettysburg and all that went into the political dynamics and the social and all the other dynamics that were going on during that time that went into his speech. I know you grew up in Vietnam, but I know you grew up in America too. But was the Gettysburg Address something you learned when you were growing up?
Yeah, I had a little in school.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So, we all know the Gettysburg Address, and right. So this book is all about like, all that went into it, like why it even happened and what it was all about and what the speech was, why certain things in the speech were done the way that it was. Like, anyway, it was kind of interesting. Like the reason why I wanted to read this book was because I saw it and I was like, it's such a famous speech that you're like, we all know the Gettysburg Address, but none of us really know the Gettysburg Address. Really, I know we learned it in school, but I don't remember shit about it. I don't know about you, but like I don't remember anything from it. So
Me
I thought,
either.
hey, why not?
I just
Yeah, I
know
was.
that's an important turn of event in history where Lincoln is giving that address. But as far
Right.
as what's in it, I didn't really, wasn't curious enough to get into the greedy details of the words itself.
Exactly. Yeah. So I thought, what the hell? Let's see what happens, right? So the title of this reflection is 272 words. So 272 words is all the Gettysburg Address was. Can you believe that? Like that's all that went into the Gettysburg Address. It was like 272 words. It blew me away when I heard that. As I was listening to the book and learning about it, I was like, holy shit! Like I figured, I looked it up. Like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s speech, the "I Have a Dream" speech. Do you know how long that was?
Not clue.
It was 16 minutes long, right? And I'm like,
I mean, you get
Lincoln
lost
had
in the
to,
first 10 seconds.
right?
I mean, say, I have a dream. You remember the rest.
Exactly. I mean, it's such a powerful speech, and I'm like, man, that was 1,600 words, and it was 16 minutes long. I figured the Gettysburg Address would at least have been like 10 minutes or something like that. This is like one of the most famous speeches that's ever been given in the United States history, and I was like, man, he did that in 272 words. Like this famous ass speech was just 272 words. So it made me start to think a little bit, about like something that Lincoln knew, that none of us knew, which is words don't matter. It's what you say that really matters. Like we always go back to always be impeccable with your word, right?
Exactly. I
Everybody
mean, the thing
taught.
is, the more words you have to spell it, that means we don't have a word that perfectly match what we intend to express. So that's why we make more words, make sure that, hey, it's like this, but it's also like a little bit of that and a little bit of other. So you kind of combine a bunch of words and kind of chops, its meaning apart to kind of form a new word. So that's the
Right.
thing is, if you can find the word that succinctly pinpoint the concept or the expression, you are being very impeccable with your words. And that to me is like the perfect alignment because it's all about understanding. The more you understand, the less you have to say because you understand the word that needs to say. And you say that word, we say, hey, it's gonna be like this, and but it's a piece of this and a piece of that. So eventually, your 272 words multiplied by 10 is like 2,000 words, right? And so
Right.
that's the thing is when somebody understood something intimately, they have the ability to express it in simple terms that people can really understand and get it just by a single word. They say, I have to distill it. The simpler the answer, the simpler the word, right? It takes more work, more effort to synthesize it down versus just having a bunch of things you just throw at people and you're giving people work to kind of like trying to distill what it is that you're trying to say.
Right. So it's like the thing that I took away from this was distill down what you're thinking and make it crystal clear. And you don't need a ton of words. Make the words matter that you're saying. Number one, and then number two, it was ironic when I was reading this book. Part of the speech, part of those 272 words that he said was people won't remember what we said here, but people will remember what they did here on the battlefield, right? People remember what he said there. Like when you make your words matter and you make them, clear and concise, like you end up with a speech that's, impeccably worded speech that's remembered throughout history. And it's only 272 words. So this reflection is actually pretty special for me because like I took that lesson to heart. And if you word counted my reflection, it's actually 272 words.
I think I like this better.
yeah. I'm the only one that knew that, but obviously I'm sharing that with you. As I was writing this one, I was like, what would be cool is if I made this reflection 272 words. So it was interesting. I like this book. It made me think, one of the concepts that I remember from Made to Stick, he said, make it profoundly simple, right? And for something to be profoundly simple, it actually takes 3 years and 365 books for you to say, focus on your values. We understand what that means. And that's 3 words, right? But that took us 3 years and 365 books and reflections and conversations and studies and experiments and, a different hypothesis and all that other stuff to come up with 3 simple words of focus on your values. You know what I mean? It's like, that's what profoundly simple means. Like, that's what Lincoln did in this speech. You don't need to give a 5-hour speech for it to be remembered. You just need to make the words matter and make it clear, and people will remember.
Exactly. What else you got?
That's it. That was the whole reflection.
Okay. So I guess the question that you're asking the audience is, how can you say more while talking less? So the thing is, this reminds me of what we talked about in the past, when I told you that when I'm in a meeting, I don't write notes, right?
Right.
Because when I talk to somebody, I'm trying to understand. And when they say something I don't understand, I'm going to ask the questions. So the way for me because the thing is, when I go to a meeting and I'm taking notes, when I go back to my desk or whatever, I have no clue what I'm supposed to. Somebody's giving me a project. They're asking me, hey, to build something for them, and I'm taking notes. And they say, hey, blah blah. I took notes, and I have after I'm done with the meeting, I have no idea what am I supposed to do. That's when I stop taking notes and I only listen. I never take notes anymore after that, because when I listen, you have to listen to understand. If you say something that I don't understand and I don't have a chance to ask you the questions, then I won't remember. I don't care if it's a 2-second. I don't care if you give me some kind of word like, beaver must dam. What the hell does that mean? We don't know.
Right.
So the thing is, it's not about simple. It's about clarity. Clarity means like, can I say something that people understand? When I say clarity, it means, because sometimes it's not simple. Let's say I'm from a different country. I don't understand the culture of the United States. And I came here, I just landed in the United States. Whatever you say, hey, can you hand me a soda pop? I have no idea what you're saying. But that is as simple as anyone can put it.
Right.
But I have no idea what you mean by soda pop, right? Or give me a pop, give me a soda. We are taking the clarity in terms of, we have this understanding, this culture, this what I call like historic, like what we say in terms
history.
of
We had history.
So we have this training in a way from society. Hey, we live in this society. This is how things work. We drive on the right side of the road. You drive on the right side because you grew up in this culture. You understand that. So when you say you're always going to be on the right side because that's the way we do things. But the thing is, to say something to a foreigner in India or in England or wherever that is driving on the left side, it's counterintuitive to them.
Right.
So it can be as a simple word as, be on the right.
Right. So
clear, even though the word is simple. So to me, it isn't about simplicity. It's about clarity.
Mm-hmm.
Clarity means understanding. And to me,
profoundly simple. It's got to be, you got to be able to, everybody needs to be able to understand it immediately, right?
That's why we are spending
oh my God, we're all over the fucking place.
Have been struggling to find the right terms, or even the groups of words that closely resemble what we want to describe what clubbing is about. And we have been struggling with this for the past 2.5 years.
Yeah.
And, to the point where we are doing the Reflection 220 plus, because we have to get podcasts. And so we have like more than 220 of these discussions, plus, another year before that of all these trying to do exploration and discovery and what
year and a
we're trying
half.
to
It was a
do.
year and a half. Yeah.
Yeah, a year and a half. So it's been a long time. And even then, we're getting slowly, and we come back to more or less, meaningful work, meaningful relationship, focus on your values. So these things, we're distilling this thing. Because in the beginning, you say, hey, we're talking about marketplace and
yeah.
form.
It's a purpose-driven ecosystem for purpose-driven human beings.
It's simple, but it's not clear. To me, what impresses me with the Gettysburg Address is that President Lincoln really understood. For him to be able to impeccably deliver this address in this short and succinct number of words, you have to understand deeply, really understand deeply, for you to find the right words that will resonate with the people without having to put in a bunch of filler words. And so to me, that is the most impressive. I mean, to me, it's not like, hey, Lincoln's just going to be, I think, slaves should be free. I am very impressed with the understanding and the amount of thinking and trying to analyze the whole picture of what he needs to do. And he really understands, he really sees the value. This is why he's able to deliver that. Because I think, that's what makes me think that, because we've been doing this for like almost 3 years. And we haven't even gotten to the point where we can give a speech under 270 words, right? And so we still struggling. And I knew how much work and effort it is to take for us to be able to distill down all the fluff around the concept and make it clear. And so for him to clarify in such a succinct way, he must have spent a lot of time to be able to
writing multiple drafts, I'm sure, and figuring out what and bouncing it off a bunch of different people. This shit is not easy. Actually, oftentimes people are like, well, yeah, well, duh. Like if we said focus on your values, people are like, well, duh. Well, I know, duh. But that's what a profoundly simple message is supposed to be. It's supposed to be, well, duh. You're like, yeah, I know. But that duh takes an insane amount of time. Right.
When you're trying to, come up with an understanding or an expression of something, it's fuzzy. And so you're trying to find anything, any words that seemingly fit what you're trying to say.
Can you remember, like, back to when Luca was still in the NICU and we're having conversations with me down in the lobby of the NICU, and we're like, no, that's clubbing. No, that's what it is. It literally took us hours of conversations to say what we kind of even thought it was. We kind of knew what we wanted to do, but we could feel it, but we couldn't express it. We could not relay that message from our heads to somebody else. You remember when Kyle Lacey, you remember that guy, Kyle Lacey, was the Lessonly CMO? I ended up having a conversation with him, and I remember telling him about, like, well, we're doing this and we're doing that, and then this is the story to get to this, and this is how this happened with this. And he was like, it sounds really cool, but like, I'm going to challenge you to make it a little bit more clear. And I was like, yeah, I know, we can't figure out how to say it, like, and he was like, well, that's, as a marketing person, he's like, you can't share that with anybody else unless you can clearly articulate exactly what you guys are trying to do. He was like, I would focus on that first. And I was like, yeah, no, you're right. I mean, obviously that's what we're going to continue to do, but it was just funny because that was only 4 or 5 months into us trying to figure this whole thing out. And we were still like, I couldn't explain it to somebody in a 30-minute conversation. I had to give them the whole fucking story, all the context, all the things that were going on, all the stuff that we were doing, the core values quest, what you and I, how we met, what we were trying to focus on. I had to give it everything to say, and that is Clubbany. And they're like, oh, okay. I mean, it sounds cool, but somebody had to be willing to give me an hour of their time and attention and try to follow
It's not 270 words for sure.
Right, exactly. It was probably 27,200 words, to be able to.
Yep.
I mean, shit, like, look at the book that I wrote, the original book. I mean, a lot of that was kind of Clubbany, origins. And we talked about this, like, along the way. We're like, well, if we want to explain Clubbany, like, maybe this is what we give our new Clubbany members or something like that. And, like, yeah, maybe, but, like, no, like, what you give the new Clubbany members is focus on your values. Like, like, you don't need them to go read a 400-page book to figure out what the fuck Clubbany is, right?
I mean, this is the thing is, the more you understand, the simpler the answer you can give people, and they will understand it. You tell, the more they understand. The more you tell, the more confusing they get.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, 100%, because you're trying to
take all these visuals in your mind, all this big picture, all this story that you have in the background of the concepts of it, and then relay that into somebody else's brain. It's impossible for them to see what you've seen. It reminds me of that. I told you about the tappers and listeners. It reminds me of the tappers and the listeners, where they are, you're given a song and like happy birthday, and they're like, tap it out. And how many people are going to get it right? 3%, 3 out of 120 people got it right, and that's because like we can't hear what's going on in your brain. Like you have all this, like, I was on a run this morning, like just like normal or whatever, and my book finished like about mid-run, right? So I had like 20 minutes and that I was still running, and I didn't want to pull my phone out and download another book or play Spotify. I was like, you know what, Amelia, you and I can just spend this quiet time running and it'll be fun. I'm running back and I get to our street for the final home stretch. I decided to try to do a sprint on the way down our street. I was imagining myself with Amelia pushing a cart, and we were just trying to go as fast as we could, and she was having a lot of fun. And as we got closer and closer to my house, as you start to go down this little tiny decline, my house kind of sits on the middle of a hill that's going this way. And so the road, we were picking up speed, and immediately I saw this visual in my mind of, just how far Amelia and I have come since, her accident, her life, and losing, her battle. And it reminded me of like a week before or a week after she passed away, and I was out mowing the yard, and I was on that same hill coming down, and on the other side of the street that's coming at it, like there was a little girl playing and, with her mom and like running around catching a balloon. And I was like crying as I was cutting the grass, and I'm literally, all this is going on in my mind as I'm running down the hill. But like, I'm like, oh man, Amelia, like just think about how far we come. I don't feel sad anymore when we're running. I feel like you and I are pushing ourselves and we're sprinting toward our driveway and having a good day, and we're going to do more living for two stuff. And it just reminded me of such a stark reminder of those two. And the reason why I'm saying the story to you is like those visuals in my head are like, I could see that other little girl running down the hill, while I'm cutting the grass and crying. And then I could see myself obviously in that moment 3 years later coming down the same street, and it's just a different world. But I could never explain that to somebody, right? Like, even though I'm telling you this, you don't understand what I'm saying to you, and you'll never feel the breeze, the sun, the crying, the emotions, the longing for your daughter that just passed away a week before. I mean, like, nobody can ever understand that, and we can never put that into words, right? And then I don't know, it's just really hard, sometimes to get what's in your head and the tappers and the listeners out so somebody else can understand it, and it's hard. It's really hard. Like, that's why you got to be impeccable with your words, like,
Right. Because I think when people say a picture is worth 1,000 words, and so a lot of times we borrow a previous understanding of whatever we are used to, and to borrow that. So when you and I keep saying, I don't run for train, this has a lot of images in my head.
Right. Yeah.
And that's like a 10,000 word, 20,000 word, even 100,000 words in there. Just because
it's a whole book. It's a whole damn book.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so I think this is what we're doing. This is why, for me, like, you and I keep saying the same thing to each other. Say, I don't run for train. You shouldn't really run from the train. So this is profoundly, in less than 2 seconds, I'm able to give you a context of what I'm trying to express. Right. And that understanding is allow me and you to be able to keep up with these core values of ours. Because a lot of time, we have distraction in our life. We have things that will forces us to drift away from what we're supposed to do, because we don't live alone. So everything you have around you is gonna have a pull on you, some sort of influence. But having the ability to say, people must stand, a writer must write, a painter must paint. This kind of truism, or whatever you call it, it's a bumper sticker saying these things. Slogan. It's essentially a trigger of a context, of an image. And so I think, and the more you and I explore this company culture, we have been built a bunch of these bumper sticker saying. And and I think this is what we use as a trigger. As a trigger for memory palace.
Bumper sticker, right? Exactly. Like 272 words could be a bumper sticker. Who gives a shit about the Gettysburg Address?
When you say 272 words, right? It's succinctly tell me about the discussion we have today about how we need to be impeccable with our words, and how Lincoln was impressively able to achieve that.
It's a 27-minute conversation between two people that know each other so well and understand all the verbiage as well. You know, it was really funny yesterday when Snow was doing his thing. And have you ever noticed, like, whenever we have like Snow, or like, it's been a long time since Blake has done this with us, right? But like, we are literally, you and I are literally speaking a different language than, I mean, and I don't mean that in like a bad way. I actually kind of feel bad because it's almost like if I was in their shoes, I would be like, what the fuck are they talking about? I need you to slow down and give me more context around, like, we could probably speak in code for an entire conversation around somebody, and they would be like, I don't know anything of what you just said. And that's a whole nother language all to itself. I'm actually going through this right now with my new employees that I inherited, that I'm rolling into my old employees, and I'm talking in codes that all of them, my employees understand, and they're nod their heads and they're like, yeah. I just had this conversation today with them where I introduced them all to our values, our operational cadence, what these meetings mean, why we do these certain activities, and how it aligns to your values. And I want you to focus on your values and how being the linchpin, bringing your art out, you know, like all these things. And my whole team knows it. They know it like the back of their hand. They know what an accountability buddy is. They know what it means to what the focus for the day. You know, they know what a vital priority is. They know what first things first means. Like they've talked about it. They've shared with it. They've gone through experiences together. They speak a different language than everybody else. And these other people, they're interested because they see the other people that are interested, and they're like, okay, all right, this sounds intriguing, but I don't understand it. No joke. Like, I'm literally, we were going through this today, and they're like, so are you saying that I need to do I need to like a therapist as well through this whole program? You know, like one of them asked me that question. I go, no, like just hang tight. Follow the process. You'll figure it out as we go. I need you all to understand the language that we're speaking in this culture, right? And I was pretty clear to them about that. And they were like, oh, okay, I get it. Like, you know, you're not going to understand it all today. They didn't understand it all on day one when I explained it to them. It takes time. You have to talk through these things. You have to experience them. And I have to be and you and I, as we are orchestrating Clubany, like we have to be profoundly simple with our steps, leading people, like the little crumbs that we leave on a trail, like need to be profoundly simple crumbs that we've distilled down to go, okay, now we're talking about this, you know, and this is what you do to understand that. And this is the saying, the slogan or whatever, you know what I mean? And we'll leave the little crumb for them to nibble up and understand and digest and reflect. And you know what I mean? Like that's not easy, you know.
It's not, but that's the thing, you know, when we are building something that no one's doing, it's hard to borrow somebody. That's why for me is instead of telling you, put first things first, you know, doing the emotional bank account and all these things, the ability to do all these things. I say, well, I'm going to borrow, you know, Dr. Stephen Covey's book. Say, hey, I'm borrowing his ability to explain and say, hey, you know, this is what I want you to do, right? So eventually when more people are saying, you know, the core values quest, they understand what that means. Focus on your value. I think right now, the general population understand what we mean when we say focus on your values. I think they think they understand. Because even for me, I didn't understand about values in the beginning because I was going to say, well, what are values? I mean, values, is it like principle or is it, you know? So the thing is, I thought I knew because and I never looked into it. But that's the thing is, you know, when we say, you know, focus on your values, people say, well, that's simple a word for me to understand, but I don't really understand. Well, and then when you get to the point where you're gonna go, you know, core values quest, so, well, that's even further alien to me than focus on your value. Because I understand what values is, I understand what focus on values means. And I kind of understand what values means at that point. Now you say core values quest. So what is core values quest versus value?
I don't know. We'll figure it out.
It was a question about, and then we're talking about like, you know, don't run for change. We're talking about like the 1,001 day turkey. We're talking about, you know, the first things first, the 4 quadrant, you know, all these things that we, you know, the elephant and the rider, right? This to me, these are the cue for my memory palace to start to activate, and activate it in like multiple images. And if a picture is worth 1,000 words, and you're talking about like a video, I mean, how many words are there in that simple cue that generate this massive balloon of a video, and you translate that into what that's like, you know, more than an entire book in itself.
It's insane. Like when we say the words, you know, my elephant, like you and I know what that means when I say my elephant, but like I sometimes am writing that and I go, my elephant did this, and I'm like, I know exactly what that means, but like somebody else would be like, what the
What?
fuck are you talking about? You're on another planet, man. But I'm like, no. My elephant did this, and my writer was doing that. That's fine. This is what my elephant does. I'm just following what my elephant does. I'm listening to it. And I'm an elephant whisperer. And you're like, what the fuck is this guy talking? So it's actually really funny as well with this whole induction of the new. This is an interesting experiment because, and I'm glad I'm kind of going through it because like a part of me, is going, is this really worth it? Because I mean, we're in such a groove with with the other people, but at the same time, we're going to need to add new people in. This is an interesting dynamic because these people didn't choose. I didn't choose these people, and they didn't choose me, right? So or Clubany or what, you know what I mean? Like they didn't choose this idea, right? So they're just being thrown into it, and we're like, can we help them to speak in the same language? What was a really interesting dynamic is it was a lot easier for me to quote unquote sell this because all of my previous team was there for this conversation today, and they just were, and I'm like, you all know, is this valuable for you guys? Is this something that you would recommend doing? They're like, yep. And they're okay, all right. Like there's immediate trust and credibility, right?
Right.
I don't need to do anything. I don't need to sell it. I just go, hey guys, this is what this is. Hey guys, has this been valuable for you? Yes. Okay. Well, if they think that it's okay, then I'll think that it's okay, and I'm sure I'll figure it out eventually. So It was an interesting, really dynamic of that kind of conversation today because I invited my old team there to introduce this to the new team because I was like, it'll be a lot easier for me to explain this. And it was a lot easier for me to explain it this time around. I was able to do it in, 45 minutes. I feel like they were able to explain it all. And I had it all written down for them, very crystal clear, what the expectations are. And then there was people that were backing this stuff up, of like, yep, I can testify, like this is what happens, like just keep following along, like so it was interesting.
You got social proof behind you.
Right, exactly. If we ever do get Company started, multiple of them have been like, there's been I think there's 3 of them so far out of my original 8 employees that I've told the Wizard of Oz curtain a little bit, on what we've been doing, and because they've been curious, they've been asking more and more questions. They read all of our reflections, like that we're doing and posting, and then they ask more and more questions, and they want to learn more and more about what we're doing on the nonprofit side of everything. So multiple of them have been like, Chris, if you ever do figure this thing out, I'm in. Day one, just let me know and I'm in. And like for you, this is important for you and I because we don't need to go find new people. We could probably pull in a half dozen people into this project right out the gate that I know would be cultural fits that are already wanting to do this stuff, and it would be fun. I mean, we don't need to go talk to some investor or whatever somewhere. I'll pay them almost, at least 70% of their OTE, probably 60% of their OTE, and they don't give a shit. They're like, well, I can go do what I want to go do, and I can go do this same stuff that we do all the time. Like, this is what I care about anyway. Like, this is what I'm having fun doing about this job. I don't care about the job. Like, multiple of them would be like, I don't care about this job. I only care about this team and doing what we're doing every single day. And I'll keep fighting for the stuff that we have to do for the job. I'm so happy about how they're taking to this. And it makes me feel really proud that you and I could distill down all of our conversations into 272 words, if you will, quote unquote, that they can understand, follow along, and see for themselves.
Yeah, having a social proof is going to be a great big factors in terms of getting people to give it a try.
Right.
I think people have a hesitations of say, this is unknown to me. I don't understand. If I don't understand, is it worth the effort? But having somebody say, hey, this is worth the effort. And I think even for us in the beginning, we don't understand it as well. We just knew that there got to be a better way than the way that we're doing it. I mean, even for me anyway, I know that what I'm doing before wasn't the path that I want to take. Right. And I want to try something new. And I think one of the most, when we read The Alchemist, the first book, The Alchemist, it's very fitting for what we do for Clubany. Yep. The thing that we're searching for is always right under our nose. And that's the thing. It's what we do, right? What we do, if somebody were to align their request with my mindset, then I'm more than willing to do, and I probably do like 10 times better than I were told to do, or were to be, you got to do it in this way. You got to do what I want you to do, and you got to do it in the time that I want you to do it. So it's the constraint of your ability to choose I think that creates this courage, right? It
Right.
occurs you. But I think once you, because I noticed for myself, when I do something that I really care about, I went all out. I mean, you can't stop me. And basically, when I'm doing something that I really chose to do, you and I understand that we are unstoppable.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Unstoppable. I mean, you're talking about if I wanted to do something in coding and programming, I mean, I can figure out how to do anything
right.
because
I believe you.
it's the motivation. You're motivated to do something, and you figure. I mean, the thing is, you say, I haven't done it before, but I'm gonna find out. And the more you go into, the more leads you get. You start to follow the lead, and you start
Right.
to amass this knowledge, and you start to suck in all the knowledge that pertains to that thing.
Right.
And so you become you get into this flow.
You can build anything, like true. I believe that you can build anything with your skills. But the problem is I could sell anything. I believe that I can sell anything with my skills. But the problem is what do you want to build and what do I want
you
to
sell?
like?
Yes.
So there's multiple times recently where I've been like, that'd be an interesting product to go sell. And then I'm like, and then I don't know. I feel like I just get mentally transported into the future where I'm working at this company. I'm like, why am I working at this company? Like, what the fuck why would I ever agree to this job? Even though it seemed, this happens all the time where, I mean, I literally shut things down I tell myself no all the time where I'm like, no, Chris, would you ever go back to Salesforce? No. Like, I mean, could I? Sure. And would I be okay if I wanted to apply all this stuff to it? Sure. But like, should you? No. Like, why would you go back there? Like, there is like, if anything, I need to get going further and further toward what we're doing because that's what brings me, that's what I want to do. Like, that is how we're going to figure this thing out. And every step that I take in a different direction, like I go, well, that doesn't get me toward this, and yeah, I could do that, but I don't want to do that. Like, if you asked me to go sell for your guys' nail salon thing or whatever, I'd be like, I don't want to do that. Like, like I
mean,
could.
it's the same
I
thing
don't
we
want
talked
to.
about the other day. If I want to learn to play tennis and I want you to teach me something, I want you to teach me your best skills, right? Not the second best, right? Not the third best, not the last, right? Not the worst.
Agreed. Yeah.
Because so the same concept applies. You say, well, there's this idea and there's the other idea. Which one I want to do? Do I want to do the one that's I can do it? I mean, it's not the best, but I mean, the point is your time is the most valuable resources. Right.
Yeah.
And so you want to spend the time of the utmost, the best thing that is for you. Just like, you would say, well, if you were to go and let's say you go play basketball, but when you play basketball, you can't play tennis.
Oh, and I don't like it.
Isn't the best thing because, as I'm saying, it's kind of line. It's like sport. It gives me physical exercise, but
I
challenge not the best.
myself. I can do some of my values.
Right. So could you play basketball? Yeah, you could.
Of course, I could.
But the question is, would you rather play something else like tennis, or would you play basketball?
Not even a debate.
This is the question I keep saying to you of all these ideas you have because, like I say, I am very straightforward, right? I said yes because I don't think it's not to say that it's a bad idea. It's not to say that it won't work or anything. I'm just saying, hey, this is not something that we're really into.
I'm glad that you tell me these things because it's not, I don't want okay, so the Year of Magical Learning is a perfect example of this, right? And this is about what I'm going to write about, tomorrow, I think, because I just finished this book called Quit by Annie Duke. It was so good. It was a really good book. You should really read it if you want to check it out. I really, really enjoyed it. Annie Duke, the poker player, I think you know who she is.
Yeah, I read one of her the book.
Was that the one you read?
Yeah.
No, this book was really good. It was about quit. It was about anyway. I'm not gonna go. We can talk about that in the future. But I just lost my train of thought. You were saying like the things that I come up with ideas around, and stuff like that. It reminded me of this lesson, this new thing that I learned with ants, right? So ants follow pheromones to food, right? That's how they go marching or whatever. But there's always these stray ants that are doing their own little weird thing. That's because they're always exploring. They're always trying to find what's going on in the world to make sure if that watermelon that dropped on the floor that we're all tracking toward gets cleaned up by somebody, like, we got our feeler ants. It's like loon shots for ants, like they're doing shit all over the place, and they have people that have certain jobs to go look for shit all over the place, right? Well, the funny thing is that these monthly challenges and this stuff made me think about the Year of Magical Learning, what you were just talking about. Of this project no different than any other idea that I've brought to you. The difference was when I started doing it, I loved it. Like, I mean, it was after the 30-day challenge and we went through it. I was like, this is a ton of fun. Like, I'm having a blast. Every day I get to spend more and more time. And now I get to have more and more time and fun with you, like doing stuff that we like to do and further developing out our ideas or whatever. It was a full-on natural home run alignment. Like, it was effortless for me to go do this stuff, initially. And it's not effortless, sorry. It was fun. I didn't care about the effort. Like, it was fun. Like, I was enjoying the shit out
It's
of doing
alignment, because the thing
Right.
is, this like the year magical learning is when you come to me and say, yeah, this sounds great,
Sounds fun, yeah.
because like we were saying and doing like the live streaming and all this, and said, no, look, what we do is just record, because one simple button, record, it's aligned with what
Right.
we do, because we're gonna do this regardless whether or not this podcast exists.
Right.
That's what I'm saying is whatever you do, right?
Should just be natural.
Would you do it? Any kind of compensation, any kind of whatever.
Would you
Would
pay
you still
for it?
do right? When you are already wanting to do something, right? You go, let's say, hey, you come to me with an idea. You say, hey, I like this idea. Hey, we want to build a business. And I say no, and you still do it. Then it aligns.
Then it's in alliance.
I mean,
right?
because
Like,
you want it regardless. The question is, do you really need that?
Nah, I don't care.
You
Like,
don't
I mean,
need it.
that's why
I'm saying, hey, it's a good idea,
Right.
but it doesn't align with what we do. Therefore, there's no need for us to pursue that.
Right.
Because to me right now, I love doing this, right? And the reason for it,
I love the core values quest with the team that I'm doing, and I love seeing them now progress past that and live their values every single day, and coaching them and developing and helping them grow. Like, I love that stuff, and we can do that.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying. This is alignment.
Right.
This aligns with what you and I do. This is why you and I are on this podcast recording at 10, 11 p.m.
Right.
every single day for almost 2 years since the start of the podcast. And 1.5 years before that, we meet every day. Without alignment, how can someone do that?
You can't. Like, it's impossible.
The thing is, we are spending money. We're spending our time. We're not making any money. So the thing is, regardless if we make money or not, we still do it. So that's alignment. So to me, instead of go out there and build a business around something that doesn't align, we build a business on core values quest.
Right.
Because for me, like I said, if you were to get to the point where we bring in people, and because if you turn to the business, for me and you to be this guy, I would love to be the guy, because this is what I do, regardless whether or not there is a person come in needing my help or not. You and I were still going to be doing the core values quest every day. The only thing now is that, hey, you bring in somebody else, we just telling them, hey, this is what we did. This is how I go through my journey. I'm guiding through. And so the whole approach is going to be, regardless of whether or not that external thing, object, person, or whatever, coming into your life, your path does not change.
Exactly. Yeah.
It does not change.
It's not even that the path hasn't changed. It's the path just gets clearer and clearer as you go, right?
It's a force multiplier. It multiplies because when I get to advise somebody, when I get to teach somebody, I actually understand more.
That's when you learn.
Even more for me in terms of what I want.
That's when you understand, is when you have to teach somebody.
But the desire, it is to be this core values explorer. I am exploring my core values. You are exploring your core values.
For sure.
You and I have the same desire. And to do the YOML podcast, it is adding to that desire and understanding. To do the guide process, let somebody pay me like, hey, $100 to guide somebody for a month. $100 is nothing. Yeah, we make more than $100 in an hour, but $100 is nothing. But I would rather go and help somebody guide for $100 than to make $10,000 doing something else.
I agree.
So, you know what I'm saying? Because the thing is, regardless of whether or not that person exists for me to guide them, I'm still doing my core value exploration. I'm still living my core value. I'm not running for trains. I am doing the first things first. I'm taking care of myself. I am living the life that I think I'm most fitted to live, right? Whether or not it's like, hey, because the thing is, you have to understand, I have been able to filter out a lot of things that doesn't align with me right away. It doesn't get into my head anymore. It's like eating, right? When you eat something, you knew what is good for you and what isn't good for you, what's junk food, what's poison for you. So for me, information as well, but when people say something that is completely like, it's like on the opposite spectrum of my core value, I just know, basically, I just filter it out completely. It doesn't affect me anymore. I mean, you go on the news, whatever, these people, blah, blah.
Right.
It's like, I don't care. I mean, you can go and say you need a rice grind and repeat it, and you need to be a man, take the pain and whatever. I say, bullshit, you do whatever you want. I am part of this, persuasions of whatever.
Right.
I'm able to figure it out. Because the thing is, like I said, there's no right way or wrong way to live your life. What's right for you could be wrong for me. What's right for me could be wrong for you. And so once you understand, for me, like, I have a different desire, different wants in life, right? Versus some other people. Some people say, hey, I want to be the best basketball player. I want to be the best whatever. I want to be the best business person. I want to be like Elon Musk. I'm going to devote. And that's fine. So you do you, I do me, because I don't have the gene that wants to compete in the other arena. I want to compete in a different arena. Once you understand that, you can filter out the things that's not aligned with you. Because for me, like right now, it's like, for example, food, like most food, like I don't eat anything that is
doesn't align with you anymore. Right.
Sugary or has a lot of carb. I don't eat them. I don't eat them at all. I gravitate towards the meat, right? Basically the beef mostly. But that's the thing. I knew now what food aligns with me. I also knew now what kind of information aligns with me, what kind of concept. Like, I don't want to train. People say, hey, you don't want to train. It doesn't matter. But that's the thing is, once you have determined that, right? Your life is much more peaceful. And I like my life right now. My life is good. My life is good because, I don't have as much of an anxiety as I have before. I basically don't have any anxiety at all because I have a good ability to make enough money to cover some stuff. And I have the ability to be disconnected from the worries and the scares of the world. When you're talking about you're out there, the world's doing this, the market's doing this. I'm basically oblivious to it.
Yeah, you're like, I don't give a shit. It's fine. That's exactly what like and
I don't want to lose it.
Well, it's not that you don't want to lose it. Like I think that we need to be. This is a really delicate point because, like, it's great that you're happy, but the thing is like, what you would want to go recreate if it got taken away from you. Like, you're not attached to it. Like,
exactly.
well, at least I can only speak for myself.
That's the thing.
I'm not
we learn the concept.
Right.
So when situation changes, we can adapt. And that's what makes me confident, because regardless of what happens to me, I think I have the skills to be able to become, to get back to where I need to be. Just like
whatever that new path is, right? Next pond,
1,000 feet, right, from the pond, right? Right. You're gonna look for another pond. You're not gonna look for another desert. Okay, you knew what you look for. Yes. And so that's the thing is, for me and for you, is for me to continue on this quest, because life is always it's a constant quest. I mean, the only way you're not on a quest is you die, right? When you're in life, you're always on this quest. You're always moving.
Well, and I don't personally know that the quest ends when you die, but I mean, that's a question that we should leave open. But
that could be a question mark. I mean, I can't argue with it because I haven't got that yet.
Right.
But I'm just saying is, having the ability to get back to where you're supposed to be gives you some level of confidence that say, hey, I'm not gonna be fearful of anything just because I can always get back to my feet, whatever that means. To me, I am able. I feel like I'm able to do what it is that I need to do, and that makes me feel safe and secure. And that safe and secure feeling means a great deal to me. And so for me is, I put that above anything. If I have to make, if somebody were to tell me, I have to do certain things that I want to do, I basically think, that's not me. You can find someone else.
Yeah, right.
I'm not, I don't even need to hesitate for a second. I know exactly my answers.
I get sad these days when I don't have like the former kind of senior leadership and co-founders and people that I was friends with at Angie's List started up a tiny little startup here in Indy. And it's still a small company. It's only like, 10, 15 people or something like that. But like, I keep seeing these people that I know very well, and they're all slowly but surely, it seems like a few times a year, you'll see a LinkedIn update of like, oh, making the jump over to this company, and they're slowly growing and reassembling the old team together, right? It seems like, and these are people that I know well, and a part of me goes, man, why hasn't anybody reached out to me yet? Like, I mean, why haven't they asked me if I wanted to join the new club, if you will? And then I go, what am I talking
Wait,
about?
you
Like,
know
I mean,
what?
like, I don't want to join that. Like, I mean, like, you know, like, I don't give a shit. Like, I do, but I don't, you know, if a recruiter reaches out to me or something like that, I'm like, oh, that'd be interesting for like 5 seconds. And then I go, I'm good.
I mean, the thing is, you're gonna have to find ways to decline, and that's the thing for me is now that I decline like almost 100% of all the other opportunity comes my way. And
Yeah.
one of the saying that I keep hearing is that, what is your dream job, right? And the answer is that, I don't dream of working.
Right. That's true.
I don't ever dream of working. And so
Right.
that's the thing is that sticks in my mind. It's like, I don't ever dream of working. So working, keep me out. Just give me the ability to do what I want to do. And
Yeah,
sometimes,
go play. Yeah.
yeah, I just want to go play.
Right.
And
Yeah, I agree.
play, this is play. This is going on here and just shoot the breeze and just talk about whatever, what 272. I have no idea what 272 means until
Right.
today, but it's a great conversation.
Yeah,
I mean,
it is.
it aligns with what I want, and it's also aligned with what you want, and that makes it interesting. And because you and I have this special vocabulary that we have been
Right.
able to acquire, it makes it really a fun conversation, since whatever I say, you understand deeply.
For sure.
I don't want to portray the golden goose and all these things makes a conversation actually much more than it.
It's totally different. And it's really funny because I was about ready to say to you earlier in this conversation, I didn't get a chance to say it. And now you just reminded me, we're kind of married, at this point in time, right? This is kind of what marriage looks like, in a weird way. I'm not saying like we're actually married. I'm talking about you and your wife, you have your own separate language, you and your kids, you have your own language, right? Like I can't recreate the past 15 years that my wife and I have experienced together. When we say, oh, remember Florence, and blah, 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 like she knows, like,
It's a trigger word, right? It's
right,
a trigger word that you have a special memories, or pictures, or image of that, and that triggers a whole thing to come to surface in your brain, and that's thousands and thousands of words.
Exactly, and those are good experiences, things that we want to continue to anchor on, to understand, like how did we the path that we got to getting to where we got to today, of dating for 15 years, married for 10, having 2 kids and all the other crap that we've gone through in life, and that journey together. There's nobody else that I would, I mean, I never know what the future is going to hold, but I will never recreate that in my life again. There's no way possible that I could recreate what my wife and I, the connection and the language that her and I can speak together. That is so much work that's been put into that. There's so much time, so many conversations, so many experiences, so many things that we've done together that only we could understand. But once that's gone, that's gone. And I don't want to lose that, because it's really hard to figure that out. I couldn't bring in another wife right now to be our third wife, or another husband for my wife, just to be fair, where she knows how she operates and what she does and how her life is. It would take so much fucking time. That's why people hate getting divorced. That's why they hate having to go figure out the stuff going forward. I can't ever predict how our lives will turn out, but what you and I have already unearthed together and gone through together, like, we can't even bring a random person into the conversation anymore where they're going to be, they're lost. I mean, they're like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, right. You're no different than if a random person popped into your family's life, they'd be like, I don't know what the fuck these people are doing. I don't know why they do what they do, or, whatever. And hopefully you strategically have figured that all out. But like, even if you haven't, like you just do stuff that you do, and it develops over time. Anyway, I have to go to bed because it's officially 11 o'clock and I want to go to bed. Yeah. I'm tired and I just got back from a tennis match. So, but that was a fun conversation as always. And I'm glad we were able to find time as always, because you find time for shit that matters, right?
This is the thing you want to do.
Exactly. I mean, I was talking to you while I was driving in a car on an interstate, with cars weaving in and around me. That probably isn't a good thing. That might be an addiction, True.
It is an addiction. I told you, I don't run for train. You shouldn't run on train either. I can wait. It'll take you another 15 minutes to get home, and I can wait. Like I said,
I was like, I want
it's always up to you.
Yeah. I just read my reflection in the parking lot before leaving the tennis match, and I was ready to go. Like, let's do this. Awesome. All right, well, that was fun question, and looking forward to talking tomorrow as always.
Let me stop sharing and